One is not born, but rather becomes a woman. Simone de Beauvoir. This isn't poetic flourish, it's an indictment, a philosophical dagger thrust into the heart of societal structures we've accepted without question. In this world, the standard isn't humanity. The standard is man, not capability, but a rigid mold carved from centuries of stories told about only half the species. Not freedom, but compliance disguised as the natural order. Women in this system aren't allowed to be themselves. They are shadows, the other, as Simone de Beauvoir called them. They are something always needing adjustment, always needing to be fixed to fit a blueprint that was never theirs. Look closer. We talk about humanity, but when history is written, it's a saga of wars waged by men, philosophies penned by men, empires ruled by men. We talk about talent, but the archetype of success is always male, bold, rational, decisive, unyielding. When a man is angry, it's a display of power, of gravitas. When a woman is angry, it's a loss of control, emotional volatility, so typically female. This isn't gender difference. This is a hierarchy. One side is enshrined as the standard. The other is seen as a deviation, a glitch, something to be molded to avoid disrupting the order. Simone de Beauvoir wasn't just challenging men. She was challenging a worldview that centers men relegating everything not male to the margins deemed defective, insufficient. Worse, women have lived in this world so long, they've started to see themselves through others' eyes. They measure themselves with a yardstick designed for a different gender. When a woman is strong, she's praised. She's got grit like a man. When a woman is gentle, she's criticized. Too emotional, so typically female. To be recognized, a woman must become a near copy of a man, but not too much, because that's overstepping. That's not her place. This is a game with no way out. A labyrinth designed to ensure women always lose, always striving to prove their worth. But whose standards are they striving for? Simone didn't write a book about feminism. She wrote a philosophical treatise to expose the structure, a structure that makes inequality seem inevitable, a law of nature. She showed that inequality doesn't stem from biology, but from philosophy. Not from women's inadequacy, but from society's deliberate effort to define them as something controllable, confined to roles like wife, mother, homemaker titles that sound noble, but strip away the right to self-definition. One becomes a woman not because of hormones, not because of genes, but because of 1,000 invisible rules imposed from the moment of birth. Because of whispers from family, school, media, religion, girls should be this, girls shouldn't be that. Because of the scrutinizing gazes when they walk too confidently, speak too sharply, or dream too big. The question isn't, are women good enough? The real question is, why is good always defined as like a man? When a standard is monopolized by one gender, it ceases to be a universal value. It becomes a tool of classification, a tool of domination. One side gets to define itself freely. The other has two choices: imitate or be excluded. Simone chose a third way: dismantle the whole system. She wrote, "We must reject the role of the other. We don't need to be like men, because men aren't the standard of humanity. You don't need to be strong like a man. You can be strong as a woman, or better yet, as yourself. You don't need permission to exist. You don't need to justify your presence with praise from the other sex. You are a subject, not an object." This isn't a trendy slogan. This is a philosophical truth. Go back in time. Look at the pages of history written thousands of years ago. Who are the protagonists who shaped the world? From Greek epics to the Bible, from ancient philosophers to modern revolutionaries, the story of humanity is almost exclusively about men. They are the gods, the heroes, the conquerors. They are Odysseus, Achilles, Caesar, and Napoleon. And women, they are Penelope waiting. Helen contested names faded into the shadows of history. Even when women appear, they're often just a pretext for men's stories. Helen of Troy isn't a person with dreams or ambitions. She's the spark that ignites a war. Cleopatra isn't remembered for her political genius, but for her beauty and her romances with Roman generals. History isn't a neutral narrative, it's a deliberate blueprint written in men's ink to serve men's stories. And don't think this is just the past. Look at the present. In blockbuster movies, who saves the world? In corporate boardrooms, who makes the decisions? In speeches about the future of humanity, who are the role models? Men aren't just the protagonists of history. They are the yardstick for every value. A successful man is exceptional. A successful woman. She's remarkable, but always with a question. How did she pull that off? That question isn't a curiosity. It's suspicious. It implies that a woman's success is abnormal, an exception, something that demands explanation. Simone de Beauvoir in The Second Sex named this phenomenon the other. Women aren't seen as subjects, as fully realized humans. They are the other, something defined through its relationship to men. Men are the center, the reference point. Women are the periphery, compared, measured, judged by how close or far they are from that center. Think about the language we use every day. When a man leads, he's strong. When a woman leads, she's often called bossy or overly ambitious. When a man chooses not to marry, he's independent. When a woman chooses not to marry, she's picky or lonely. Language isn't innocent. It's a tool of philosophy, a tool of power. Every word, every phrase is a brick in an invisible wall that blocks women from the right to self-definition. Simone showed that this inequality isn't a product of nature. It's a product of culture, of thought, of philosophical systems built to maintain order. Plato, Aristotle, Rousseau, Kant. The West's great philosophers all reinforce the idea that men are reason, women are emotion, men are action, women are passivity. Aristotle wrote that women are an incomplete form of men. Rousseau argued women should be educated only to please men. Even Freud, the self-proclaimed revolutionary of psychology, called women mysterious, as if they were some alien species incomprehensible to logic. These ideas aren't just words. They've seeped into laws, education, religion, and pop culture. They've become default truths unquestioned. Imagine a world where you're taught that to succeed, you must become something you're not. That's the world women live in. From childhood, girls are taught to be feminine, gentle, patient, sacrificial. But when they enter the world of work, of power, they're told to be masculine, assertive, tough, unemotional. This is an unsolvable paradox. Too gentle, and you're seen as weak, unfit for leadership. Too strong, and you're seen as aggressive, lacking feminine qualities. Look at politics. A female leader like Angela Merkel is praised for her calm, rational demeanor traits typically assigned to men. But if she showed emotion like Margaret Thatcher, criticized for crying at a press conference, she'd be deemed not strong enough. Look at the workplace. A woman who skips overtime to care for her family. She's labeled unambitious. A woman who prioritizes her career over family. She's called selfish, a bad mother. This isn't freedom of choice. It's a maze of conflicting expectations where women must constantly adjust to fit molds that were never made for them. And the saddest part, many women have internalized these rules. They blame themselves for not being perfect, not gentle enough, not strong enough, not manlike enough, but not too manlike either. They live in a state of perpetual tension, always proving their worth, but to whom? Simone de Beauvoir didn't call for women to become men. She called for them to reject the entire system that made them the other. Liberation for Simone isn't about seizing men's power. It's about dismantling the notion that power can only be defined in masculine terms. Imagine a world where strength doesn't mean aggression, where gentleness doesn't mean weakness. A world where women don't need to act like men to be respected or be feminine to be loved. This isn't a pipe dream. It's a philosophical revolution. Simone wrote, "The liberated woman doesn't seek to imitate men. She refuses to be reduced to a copy. She is the one who writes her own definition. Self-definition doesn't mean denying gender. It means recognizing that gender isn't destiny. You don't have to live by anyone's script, not men's, not society's, not the invisible rules that have constrained you since birth." Start by asking questions, not, "Am I good enough?" but "Who gets to decide what good means?" Reject the yardsticks that don't belong to you. Reject the roles imposed on you. Reject becoming a copy of anyone else. You don't need to be strong like a man. You don't need to be gentle like a woman. You just need to be yourself, a human, not a gender, not a role, not a shadow. Simone de Beauvoir opened the door. She didn't give you the answers. She gave you the question, how will you define yourself? And that question isn't just for women. It's for all of us living in a world distorted by artificial standards. Act today. Start with the smallest step question every rule you've been taught. Challenge the judgmental looks, the words that imply who you're supposed to be. Write your own story, not with someone else's ink, but with your own voice. Speak loudly, live boldly, be unapologetically. You don't let anyone, any system define you as the other. Stand up not against men, but against a world that's tried to convince you you're not enough. Carve out space for yourself, for other women, and for men who dare to reject this outdated system. Dismantle the system. Rewrite the story. Become the subject of your own life. And don't stop until this world no longer needs the other. If this message speaks to something inside, you don't just scroll past and don't keep it to yourself. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Spread this message so more people can access the content they truly need. Let's awaken the world, one person at a time. Let's break the unfair stereotypes placed on the roles of women. Thank you for being here throughout this journey. See you in the next video.